So, I'm sure many of you in the room today do not go far without your purse or your wallet. But I want you all for one moment just to think, what would your life be like without your credit card? Just think about that. What would life be like without your debit card? How would you pay your bills? How would you pay your rent and your mortgage? How would you pay your utility bills? How would you get the best deals online without your cards? It would be hard. In the UK currently, there are around 40% of people, working age adults, that have less than £100 in savings. 40% have less than this. That's shocking in this country. The World Bank ranks the UK 9th for financial exclusion. That's not great, considering the UK is a world-leading financial centre. There are 13.5 million people living in financial exclusion here in the UK, where low-income households, the elderly, migrants, single parents, all struggle to get access to financial services. The poverty premium, where these people pay more for goods and services, but have less choice and control. This affects health, education, housing, and employment. And not to mention the shame you feel for living in this situation. It's not right, and it's definitely not fair. I was one of the 13.5 million. I grew up in the bottom quartile, used to Provident knocking on our door every week. My mum used to repay her small loans. Sometimes, some weeks, my mum would ask us to be quiet and we would pretend that we weren't in. I even remember, and you will laugh at this, at Christmas as kids, writing a Christmas card to our debt collector. It's mad, I know. It does seem that the most vulnerable in society do seem to suffer the most. And like many families, we struggled to break out of this situation. With no financial education and no role model, I too fell into that situation in my 20s. And probably it was by luck that I ended up in financial services and working at Exclusion, where I got to see for the first time the importance of credit scores. I realised then, for my own financial well-being, I needed to lift myself out of a lower level. I didn't want to have the life my mum had, living week to week. I needed to put myself on a path to financial independence and not go through the challenges that my mum had faced. That wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight. It took years of self-education and focus to achieve that. The most vulnerable in society do suffer. This group just don't need investment. They need help. They need access to capital. They need the knowledge on how to use it. They need to be treated as customers and job creators. What is key is if people don't understand the global language of money, they are simply economic slaves. In my view, there are a couple of key causes of financial exclusion, but ultimately there is no getting away from it. It falls back to education. And you will be shocked to learn that the UK not only is below average in financial literacy, but actually almost half of working age adults here in the UK have the numeracy levels we expect of primary school children. That's bloody disgraceful, and that needs to be solved. And by the way, ladies, we are 3 times more likely to have lower levels of financial literacy than men. That's not great, considering, as we all well know, we earn less. We also save less, but we live longer. Believe it or not. IT illiteracy. This affects people from getting access to financial services and products online. But this is where the best deals are now found. How do you get them? 23% of adults in the UK don't have access to broadband here in the UK. 50% of the digitally excluded belong to the over 65 group. Digital exclusion, financial exclusion, this leads to a deepening sense of social exclusion. We need to fix this. Everyone talks about a cashless society, but until we address all those use cases across all aspects of society, and that includes the 1.7 million that don't have a bank account here in the UK, the 13.5 million that are living in financial exclusion, this won't be solved. And banking and financial services products, the best products, will remain a privilege to those in the know with a money management handbook and not a right for all. So, how do we lift up that 13.5 million people out of this? Well, all parts of society need access to the right tools and education. We need to ensure that they can help lift themselves up. And I know this is easier said than done. I know that. But in the room today, many of you are from the education sector, charities, banks, and government. We can solve this here. We need to create educational programs that help people so they understand and can make sound financial decisions. We need to ensure they all get the handbook on money management that my mum and I didn't get. And this has to start at schools. We need better data sharing. 76% of tenants who have their rental information shared saw an improved credit score. The sharing of household income could help lenders to open up other services, which could help provide poor and vulnerable people alternatives. Let's move them away from the loan sharks, for God's sake. And banks, you have a role here. This is not just a tick box on your CSR journey. You could create financial awareness programs. How about lifting these people rather than exiting them, declining them? Create programs to lift them up. This is in your gift. There are a number of ideas that I have seen that are working in other countries to lift people out of this. But what is certain is this can't be done by one group. It takes collaboration from the banks, the charities, education, government, for this financial exclusion to be solved here in the UK. Education is key, there is no doubt about that. And it needs to be across all of our schools. We need to ensure that money management and financial services products is part of our core school curriculum. It needs to also include role modelling on how to build wealth creation. We need to champion much more competition and fairness, and I think social responsibility in this sector, so that all businesses and all consumers can access the best products and services. Because this makes good business sense, because it's socially responsible. And it may even help UK PLC at a time of uncertainty. And God knows we need that. But more importantly, we need to lift up that 13.5 million people. We need to ensure that everyone can thrive and that the UK leads the way as a fully inclusive society. I know we can solve this. I myself will commit to spending time educating young people in financial and money management. But I'm asking all of you, what will you do? We can solve this, but we can only do it together. Thank you.